Welcome in to CBS News 24/7. I'm Juliette Goodrich. Here's a look at the four big headlines we're following at 4. Breaking news, several inmates on the run after escaping from a New Orleans jail. We have new details on how they managed to get out and the manhunt underway right now.
The alert is at the absolute highest. There are going to be some very serious questions raised.
An Instagram post lands former FBI Director James Comey in hot water with the Trump administration. Plus, dangerous storms rip through parts of the Midwest. We hear from a young family who describes the moment they escaped from a tornado.
And I was really, really scared. You know, it's my first son.
And a federal agency that helps people when disasters hit, sounding the alarm why they're not ready for the upcoming hurricane season. Let's begin with breaking news. Authorities in New Orleans are searching for 10 inmates after they escaped from Orleans Parish Jail this morning. An 11th inmate was captured earlier this afternoon. Police just gave an update on the case. Let's take a listen.
We do acknowledge there is no way people can get out of this facility without there being some type of lapse in security. There's no way. It's almost impossible, not completely, but almost impossible for anybody to get out of this facility without help from the outside. We intend to find out exactly what happened.
CBS News reporter Katie Weiss joins us live from New Orleans. So, Katie, what do we know about these inmates? And as we just heard from authorities, likely some help from the outside.
Well, it is certainly a rapidly evolving day here in the Big Easy. A press conference just wrapped up here right in front of the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, and we learned some new important details about the situation. First of all, we want to clarify for all of you that it was actually 10 inmates total that escaped from this parish prison here, and 9 so far are still on the run. One other inmate, the 11th inmate, was actually found located just a little while ago inside the jail. He had been moved to a different jail cell, and so that was where that confusion came from. Something else that we know from officials now is that they're still just trying to find out what happened, but they did provide some interesting insight into what might have failed here to lead all of this to take place. And one major piece is that the sliding doors and the locks on the jail cells have been defective and faulty for several years here. The sheriff even says that she's been asking for more money from the city to be able to fix those doors ever since she took office 5 years ago. And they need about $5 million to fix those locks. So certainly some concerning new details here that we're going to continue to take a look at.
Absolutely. So do we know anything about the crimes they committed and how dangerous they are to the public?
We're still working to learn a little bit more about who these folks are, but we know that one of them actually was found hiding. The one person who was apprehended was found hiding in a hotel garage, cowering underneath a car. So, you know, the parish jail here is just a few blocks away from the iconic French Quarter. They could be anywhere. I actually just came from the riverfront not too long ago, and I saw a heavy police presence down there. You know, who knows what's to say? Is it completely related to this? But certainly, as was said here today in the press conference, they've got several state and federal law enforcement officers helping them all around the city here, keeping their eyes peeled for anything suspicious.
All right, we'll stay on top of this breaking news. Katie Weiss. Katie, thank you. President Trump is on his way back to the United States after a 4-day trip to the Middle East. The president says he's leaving the region with several signed commitments of more than $1 trillion worth of investments in the United States.
The relationship and friendship is good. It's a really unified Middle East. It's something that we haven't seen. The U.S. was absent for 4 years. We didn't really know too much what we were doing for 4 years. And things were not going good. Other people were courting the Middle East, but they won't even waste their time in courting them any longer. The people in this room have helped commence between the United States and United Arab Emirates grow $34 billion a year.
So CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman joins us live now from outside the White House. Willie, what do we know about this trip, some of the key takeaways, the key moments?
Hey there, Jules. Good to be with you. Well, on this three countries, President Trump was able to get a lot of commitments from these nations to invest in the United States. Now, of course, that would mean investments in their respective nations as well. But companies like Boeing, for instance, a multi-billion-dollar deal, if you include the deal with Qatar, but also the deal with United Arab Emirates and an airline based in Abu Dhabi, Etihad Airways. If you just look at that deal in particular, it's a multi-billion-dollar transaction that would benefit an American corporation. On top of that, you have commitments to talk or explore artificial intelligence, to build the infrastructure necessary for artificial intelligence, including semiconductors. But one of the key moments that I thought was really important during this trip is that the president essentially saying to Middle Eastern nations that the United States is no longer going to lecture countries on how they should live. You also had a handshake between the interim leader of Syria and President Trump. That certainly is something that will have a lot of people looking into what goes, where we go from here in terms of the U.S.-Syria relationship. The president also announcing that the United States would move to ease sanctions on Syria, which frankly surprised officials at the Department of Treasury. They have to really carry out the president's order there. It's unclear in terms of the specifics, but that certainly is a significant development for the president's trip as he heads back here to the United States. These multi-billion-dollar deals and the diplomacy that the president was able to handle there while in the Middle East, Jules.
Yeah, we also know several Western allies called President Trump about the war in Ukraine today. What was discussed?
Yeah, that's right. We're getting this from President Zelensky of Ukraine, who posted on social media about this call that took place between a few European leaders and President Trump. Was apparently on the phone as well, according to Zelensky. Essentially, part of the conversation there focused on the easing of tensions between Ukraine and Russia. And President Zelensky in this post said if the Russians reject a full and unconditional ceasefire and an end to the killings, tough sanctions must follow. Remember, the president and officials like Secretary of State Marco Rubio essentially saying that the U.S. isn't going to wait forever for these countries to come to some type of agreement to end those tensions and to end the fighting there. We did see, of course, President Zelensky to travel to Turkey. We saw the delegation meet the Ukrainians and the Russians. Zelensky wasn't part of those conversations, and neither was President Putin, who did not travel to the region, but Secretary of State Marco Rubio there in the region, hoping that a breakthrough would happen after these nations met for a couple of hours. We do, of course, know that both sides are going to draw up their vision for a potential ceasefire and go from there. But still, nonetheless, this is certainly something that the White House is watching closely as they look to negotiate some type of end to this conflict that has been going on for the past couple of years, Jules.
Willie James Inman. Willie, thank you. Happening now, more testimony from the ex-girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs. We're inside the court as singer Cassie takes the stand for a second day of cross-examination. Next, you're watching CBS News 24/7. A massive setback after the House Budget Committee rejected a GOP budget plan. 4 Republicans joined Democrats in a vote against the big, beautiful bill. CBS News congressional reporter Torian Small has the details from Capitol Hill.
Those 4 voted no because they had some pretty critical disagreements with the state of the bill. Most of them believed that those spending cuts didn't go deep enough, and they're also part of the House Freedom Caucus. I should also point out that one other Republican voted no. In his words, though, this was a strategic change. It was out of procedural reasons and the hope that they could eventually get the votes at a later date to pass this bill and not completely kill sell it. That's Lloyd Smucker. He just put out, talked to our team on the Hill, and he said that he believes ideally he could get that vote or get the votes needed to pass this bill on Monday. That's still TBD. That's out of the way. Right now, though, what we're looking at is the conflict in terms of where the party is when it comes to this bill. Like I said, Representative Chip Roy was one of the leading members defecting with the party because he believes these spending cuts aren't deep enough, especially as it relates to Medicaid. That's a big issue for quite a few moderate Republicans who had concerns that it would negatively impact their constituents. He's saying, however, those cuts don't go deep enough considering the $3.8 trillion price tag that comes with extending the 2017 Trump tax cuts.
The military parade planned to mark the Army's anniversary, also on President Trump's birthday, is expected to cost tens of millions of dollars, according to an Army spokesman. You're looking at video of the last military parade held in Washington, D.C. back in 1991. 8,000 Desert Storm troops marched in the national parade to celebrate the victory in the first Gulf War. Initial plans for this summer's military parade would involve about 6,600 soldiers, 7 bands, 50 helicopters, and 150 vehicles, including tanks. An Army spokesperson said it could cost between $25 million and $45 million. A White House spokesperson, Anna Kelly, said the cost would be shared between the Army and the U.S. Semi-Quincentennial Commission. Kelly says in part that there is no event grand enough to capture our gratitude for the military, but the parade will be a fitting tribute to the service, sacrifice, and selflessness of all who have worn the uniform. Now, the plan has drawn some criticism from Democrats, including Congressman Steve Cohen, who called the plan wasteful, saying in part, the egotist in chief wants taxpayers to foot the bill for a military parade on his birthday. Next, severe weather hits parts of the United States. We have a new look at the damage, and we are tracking where the storm is heading up next. Stay with us. You're watching CBS News 24/7. Cleanup is underway after tornadoes hit parts of the U.S. We have video from Mayville, Wisconsin. It shows the aftermath. A factory completely shredded and homes destroyed. CBS News national correspondent Lana Zach spoke to a family who described the moments the twister hit.
I'm also joined by a young family whose home is in the stretch here on Main Street of some of the worst damage. And we've got little 3-month-old Oliver looking so beautiful. Tell us, guys, what it was like when the tornado ripped through.
So my mom and I were just about to leave, and then the sirens went off, so we went down in the basement. The basement windows face this back field here. Whenever there's a big storm, we're always looking out in the field. And I was watching on Facebook, and it said that the tornado was coming between Juneau and Beaver Dam, which is back here. So just as I realized that, I looked up, and over here I saw like a dust cloud, and I couldn't articulate. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's here. So we went in the boiler room, and it was
Did it almost
so
feel
loud.
like a Wizard of Oz moment when you saw it coming towards you?
Kind of. I just was really, really scared, honestly. I was like, I couldn't articulate what was happening, but I knew that we needed to get away from the window.
Where was Oliver at that moment?
In my mom's arms. So she was the calm in the storm, really, and I was really, really scared. It's my first son. So it was really loud, and there was dust falling on our heads, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's gonna take the house. But we were okay. We were praying so hard.
Yeah.
And
you made it through.
We made it through.
We made it through.
We made it through.
And look at how beautiful. Can we just show Oliver's big old cheeks to our national audience? What a beautiful boy. No wonder that he helped propel you forward to safety. And I understand that there was also a gas leak then.
Yes.
Because of the tornado, and you had to evacuate.
Yeah.
So after the tornado ripped through, you realized you have to get out of the house, and you had to hunker down nearby?
Yeah, we went to the Dodge County High School, and we were there till about 10, trying to figure out what we were going to do.
Is this your first time now going back to your house after that?
Yeah.
Are you worried about what you're going to see there?
No, I don't think so. We walked around the house after. We had a little bit of time, and then that's when they came and they said, hey, we got to go. So.
Well, Jess, I'm so glad that you are all okay. What a beautiful family you have.
Thank you. I'm glad that we're okay too.
Thank you, Oliver. And you can see really all the devastation. Look, their neighbor, Bruce, just back here in the blue house, that roof completely taken off. We heard from EMS that they actually had to rescue him.
While 138 million Americans are under storm threats today, widespread from Wisconsin that just dealt with active tornadoes in those overnight hours, and now we're starting to see some of these storms strengthen as they push across the Tennessee Valley and the Ohio Valley into the next 48 hours. The storm still has a lot to give, and as we head into this weekend's forecast, it's going to be a mess for a lot of community members throughout those plains and, of course, up into the Northeast, too, with soggy weather right around the corner. Take a look behind me, though. We're concerned about a couple of things. With these thunderstorms, we could see flash flooding. We could see large hail and wind damage widespread anywhere from the upper Midwest all the way over into the Tennessee Valley and the Mississippi Valley, too. And we're going to keep a close eye on this as we head into this weekend's forecast, as it's going to cause a lot of issues with travel throughout all these states. Here's where it's at right now. As we head into the evening hours tonight, just around 7:30 Central Time, anywhere from southern parts of Dallas all the way across the Mississippi and up into Cincinnati, Ohio, we'll watch some of these strong storms push off into the overnight hours closer to the Carolinas. Now, right around the corner, we're going to see more storms start to buster up as we head all the way into our Sunday forecast, too. Places like Memphis and Atlanta gearing up for some on and off active weather into this weekend's forecast. But for now, this Friday afternoon, anywhere from St. Louis all the way down into Nashville. These are large communities. They're gearing up for some of the strongest storms they're going to see heading into this weekend's forecast. That means we could see tornado threat throughout the southern portions of Indiana and Indianapolis and western portions of Kentucky. You can also gear up for some strong winds, too, forecasted anywhere up to around 40 to 60 miles per hour at times. The wind damage is a big concern, and as we head into our forecast tomorrow, we'll continue to keep a close eye on that severe weather outlook, stretching anywhere from Texas all the way along the Outer Banks, heading into the Carolinas and up into the Northeast, too. Back to you.
Jumping the map to New York now, the man convicted of stabbing author Salman Rushdie has been sentenced to serve 25 years in prison. Hadi Matar attacked Rushdie on a lecture stage back in 2022, leaving him blind in one eye. Matar called Rushdie a hypocrite before receiving his sentence. He now faces a federal trial on terrorism-related charges that focuses on the motive behind the attack. On to Georgia, one family says the state's strict anti-abortion laws are forcing one hospital to keep their pregnant daughter on life support. 30-year-old Adriana Smith, a mother and nurse, was declared brain dead in February after doctors discovered blood clots. Smith is being kept on life support at Emory University Hospital to allow the fetus to grow. Georgia's so-called heartbeat law bans abortion after cardiac activity can be detected. So her family says her due date is still 3 months away, and they are upset that the law doesn't allow them to have a say in whether to withdraw life support. A chaotic arrest outside a North Carolina courthouse. Now take a look at this video showing immigration officers chasing a man into a duck pond. Reporter Jason Puckett is in Charlotte with more on how it all unfolded.
Well, this all started across the street at the courthouse here. We were sitting in our car when we saw a man run across the lawn, across this road here. Officers then chased him down this hill into this duck pond. Here's what happened next. You're seeing footage here of the shirtless man in the middle of this pond at Marshall Park. Multiple officers approach him from multiple sides. As he gets near the edge of the pond, an officer in blue runs up and tackles the man into the water. They actually end up handcuffing him in the pond and then lead him away to a car. Now, I spoke with those officers. They told me they were immigration officers. Some of them showed me badges from Customs and Border Protection. Now, we have reached out to immigration officials right now. Haven't heard more on what exactly happened here. What we do know, though, is that the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office tell us they were not involved or aware that this is happening. Again, all of this happening in just recent hours, so we're going to continue working to get more information. For now, though, here in Charlotte, I'm Jason Puckett, WBTV, on your side.
The number of homeless in America is growing. The Department of Housing and Urban Development reports more than 100,000 more Americans were unhoused in 2024 compared to last year. CBS News' Ian Lee looks at the effort to end the chronic problem in Kansas City.
Many consider this the most dangerous area in Kansas City. But for years, couples Smoke and Serena have called it home.
Violence, oh man, violence is, it brings out the worst in you, man, down here. It pushes you to a whole nother limit.
Here, you sleep with one eye open.
You never know if you're going to wake up the next day, or you can't take a nap. You never know if somebody's going to come in and try to steal your stuff or rob you.
Josh Henges leads the city's fight to end homelessness. A tall order, as Kansas City has the worst rate of chronically homeless people sleeping on the streets in the country.
We're trying to build something here. The goal is to get people out of this.
At his side are Kevin Morgan and Nick Allen. Allen is the point man. He works to build trust, a crucial step in getting people off the streets.
You left? You're over here?
On this day, they're checking in.
We are set to double our homeless population in less than 4 years because we're not doing this right.
Henges wants to change that.
Homelessness is the most solvable problem America has chosen not to solve.
What steps would you take?
Number one, you got to align funding. You got to build a system that delivers people out of homelessness, no matter where they fall in. That is what you have to do.
I stripped this down.
He calls it functional zero, aiming for anyone who becomes homeless to be back on their feet in 30 days.
There's enough money currently in this system to solve this problem, but it is not coordinated.
To do that, he wants to direct churches, aid organizations, and shelters to align their resources to get people a place to stay while supporting their needs, similar to the services at Shelter KC.
If you just put in affordable housing and you don't deal with the core issues of addiction and mental health, then that's not going to end homelessness.
Executive Director Eric Berger wants to make sure people first feel safe and seen before helping them become successful.
Many of our people have never had healthy relationships, so you're connected into a good workplace, good housing, a support system of a church, a recovery group.
So it's a holistic approach.
It's a holistic approach, but it's also how do we have relationship with people?
For Smoke and Serena, they're getting a new home, and not a moment too soon. Their previous tent burned down.
It's just going to be nice opening and closing the door. Hey, we're home. Yeah. Let's just keep doing it, you know? Hey, we're home.
A home and a new, safer place to call their own. Ian Lee, CBS News, Kansas City.
We are getting a first look at the moment computer screens go dark at an air traffic facility that handles flights out of Newark Airport. We have exclusive video next. You're watching CBS News 24/7. Singer Cassie Ventura on the stand for a second day of cross-examination in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman reports from outside the lower Manhattan courthouse with a breakdown of what happened today.
Cassie Ventura broke down weeping on the stand as she finished what has been a very difficult week of testimony. As she started crying, she was testifying about the $20 million settlement that she received from Sean Combs, and she said that she would give that money back if she never had to do a freak-off, the sexual activities that they engaged in. She says that she wouldn't have had to work so hard to get her agency and her autonomy back. She also said that when he beat her, which she said happened more than once during those freak-offs, that she felt worthless, just like dirt, that she was nothing. After court, her lawyer came out and read a statement from her where she said that this week has been a challenge, but it's been empowering and healing, and she hopes that she has given strength to other victims to come out with their stories. She also said, "The more I heal, the more I can remember, and the more I remember, the more I can never forget." That statement seems significant because a lot of what the defense tried to do in the past couple days was poke holes in her recollection, in the fact that she was doing a lot of drugs during this time period. We learned that she was addicted to opiates, for example. She still takes medicine to treat that. The defense also brought to light one interesting thing that we hadn't heard about, though, which is that Cassie Ventura is going to receive a settlement payment from the Intercontinental Hotel. That is the hotel where there is security footage of Sean Combs appearing to assault her. They are going to be paying her $10 million. Back to you.
We are following breaking news this afternoon. Authorities in New Orleans are searching for 10 inmates after they escaped, that is, from Orleans Parish Jail this morning. So here's a look at how they escaped by removing a toilet from a wall. And since then, an 11th inmate was recaptured and is now in custody. The sheriff just gave an update on the case. Let's take a listen.
We do acknowledge there is no way people can get out of this facility without there being some type of lapse in security. There's no way. It's almost impossible, not completely, but almost impossible for anybody to get out of this facility without help from the outside. But these folks that were able to get out did so because of defective locks on the cells. I've talked about those locks since I got into office. I wrote a letter to the consent decree judge, to the city council, and everybody else who would listen. And every time I go to budget, I say the exact same thing. When you all covered our millage, I said the exact same thing. There are deficiencies in these facilities that cause public safety concerns. That's why the millage was so important.
More breaking news. The Supreme Court rejected the Trump administration's appeal to quickly resume deportations of Venezuelans under the Alien Enemies Act. CBS News Department of Justice correspondent Scott McFarland joining us live now. Scott, what more do we know?
This is a 7-2 ruling, so it's a divided court, but at this point the message is unequivocal. The Trump administration cannot resume those 18th century wartime power emergency expedited deportations from its federal detention center in Bluebonnet, Texas. The hold on those Alien Enemies Act deportations remains until an appeals court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, weighs in on the broader issue. But the Supreme Court maintains its concern about due process, that there has to be a review or a period for would-be deportees to challenge their deportation. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals is going to have to review that matter as well, but all of this feels like it's on its way back to the Supreme Court eventually for further review.
Now, a judge also reviewed the use of state secrets privilege in the Kilmar Abrego Garcia deportation case. What were your key takeaways from the hearing?
Lots of busy courthouses on a Friday afternoon, but the federal courthouse in Greenbelt, Maryland is humming with an extended set of arguments today in this very high-profile case. The March 15th Alien Enemies Act deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from Maryland. The administration has already acknowledged that deportation was by mistake. Abrego Garcia was protected from a prior court order from being sent to El Salvador, a country he fled years earlier. The administration has been under orders from the court in Maryland to return Abrego Garcia to U.S. custody. They have not done so. They've challenged that. But today, a lot of this was being run through the mud of what's taking so long. Why are things stuck? Why is this like walking in quicksand for the court to get what it ordered to have happen? The administration says it is moving as forthcoming as it can, as quickly as it can with information on this case. The judge, clearly frustrated, wants more answers and wants them more quickly. But this case, 2 months later, remains stuck in that mud.
What do we know about an FBI investigation into former FBI Director James Comey for a deleted Instagram post?
That Instagram post from James Comey, which he took down, was an image of seashells in sand that read 8624. 86, often aligned with the phrase get rid of or take down. 47, reference potentially to the 47th president. The FBI director, the Homeland Security Secretary, said they're reviewing the matter. Whether this ends up in a full-blown investigation or a criminal matter is a much different issue. But there's scrutiny being paid to this. And James Comey is not just some guy with a social media account. He is the former director of the FBI who led federal investigations into threats. And James Comey, of course, was fired by President Trump during Trump's first term.
Scott McFarland. Scott, thank you. The Department of Homeland Security wants 20,000 National Guard troops to help with the Trump administration's mass deportation effort. That confirmed to CBS News from 2 government officials. The Department of Defense is still reviewing the request, but if approved, troops would be pulled from different states and tasked with assisting law enforcement authorities with logistics and operations related to immigration. Already, the U.S. military has designated 230 miles along the border in New Mexico and Texas as extensions of military bases. There are currently about 8,600 federal troops stationed there. An undocumented immigrant living in Florida now faces a nearly $2 million fine for not leaving the country 20 years ago per a removal order. CBS News correspondent Nydia Cavazos reports on the immigration law enforcing her fine and how the mother of 3 is responding.
The Florida undocumented immigrant who is now facing a $1.8 million fine was initially issued the removal order back in 2005. And so this almost $2 million fine actually reflects a daily $500 civil fine for every single day that she refused to comply with this removal order and failed to self-deport. Now, this is actually a regulation under the Immigration and Nationality Act that actually stems back from 1952, but it's historically been an immigration law that has rarely been enforced. But now, under the Trump administration, back in February, the Department of Homeland Security announced that they would be enforcing immigration laws. And they wouldn't necessarily be, quote, cherry picking which ones to enforce. And this is the same Immigration Act that is also now requiring anyone who is living in the U.S. without legal status to register with the U.S. government. Now, as for this Florida immigrant who is also a mother of 3 U.S. citizen children, we spoke to her immigration lawyer in Florida, Michelle Sanchez, who says she's ready to contest her client's fine, given that her client was never made aware of the potential consequences of refusing to comply with the removal order and choosing to self-deport back in 2005. Back to you.
New video now obtained by CBS News. It takes us inside the troubled air traffic control center handling flights at Newark Airport. At the moment, computer screens recently went black. Here is CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve.
CBS News has obtained this exclusive video. It was shot last Friday morning during the 90-second system outage that left controllers' screens blank, unable to track planes or communicate with pilots around Newark Airport. You can see the screens controllers rely on are nothing but black.
FedEx 1989, I hand you off here. Our scopes just went black again. If you care about this, contact your airline and try to get some pressure for them to fix this stuff.
The video also shows the moment when most of the air traffic control facility's screens came back up. This outage happened at a particularly slow time for flights around Newark Airport. But on April 28th, a similar outage at the same Philadelphia area facility hit during the middle of the day. It also left controllers unable to communicate, and their screens also briefly went dark. About a half dozen controllers sought trauma leave after that incident. The ongoing staffing shortage has resulted in thousands of cancellations and delays. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy on Capitol Hill Thursday.
I believe the system is safe. There are multiple redundancies throughout the system that keep people safe, even the frustrations in Newark. When we've slowed traffic down, the key is not efficiency, the key is safety.
91612, number said hello?
And CBS News has learned another communications outage hit this Denver area air traffic control facility Monday.
The controller recovered via the emergency procedures that they have, and I believe it was down for approximately 2 minutes.
The FAA says the Colorado outage did not endanger any aircraft and did not result in any delayed flights. The work to fix the problems at that Philadelphia facility is ongoing, while Department of Transportation officials are again meeting with the nation's airlines today to discuss reducing delays at Newark. That likely means cutting flights ahead of the busy summer travel season. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Phoenix.
This just in, a large fire broke out at a parking garage of Jacksonville Airport in Florida. Officials just gave an update on the incident moments ago. Let's take a listen.
That garage remains closed. It's believed the fire started with one car and then spread to other cars. About 50 cars were impacted by that fire. Fire's not out. It is under control, but it's still burning. So they're still working to make sure that it gets completely out. Currently, we don't thankfully have any injuries to report. It doesn't look like anybody was in there. They've sent a drone in, and so far it looks like we're in good shape. We can't know for 100% sure until we can actually get in there and inspect those cars, but right now that's what it looks like. And what we're thinking at the moment, and actually this has just been decided, so I won't even say what we're thinking at the moment. The airport will reopen at 5 p.m.
So you've been listening to a news conference. Officials giving an update on that fire that broke out at a parking garage at Jacksonville Airport. We'll continue to monitor this and bring you any new updates. Jumping the map to Louisiana now, cleanup efforts are ongoing nearly 3 weeks after an oil well burst and spilled tens of thousands of gallons of oil into a marsh. CBS News reporter Katie Weiss got an exclusive look at how the oil removal is going and the impact to the ecosystem there.
Well, cleanup for this oil spill has been a tough manual labor type task. I'm told it's required the help of 350 paid employees. We were actually given a tour of an up close and personal look of that intense labor effort well underway that I'm told could take much longer. Here's some video of those crews working hard to pick up as much oil and debris as they can. Now, I'm told that they're focused on the loose debris in the marshlands that they're picking up manually by hand, which the Coast Guard says is an important task because the skimming boats actually cannot pick up some of that debris, that it would actually jam up some of the skimming equipment. They're also trying to avoid further damage to the ecosystem and the marshes there. So far, more than 120,000 gallons of oily water has been collected, and I also was able to get a tour of a rehab center for wildlife affected by the spill that was set up specifically to help animals who were injured in this oil spill. This is video actually now of an alligator covered in oil at that facility. So far, I'm told that this facility has taken in 4 total injured animals, animals injured from that oil, 3 birds and this 1 alligator. 2 of the birds, unfortunately, were too covered in oil and died, but I'm told 1 lucky bird made a full recovery and was released back into the wild this week. And in terms of the full environmental impacts, I'm told that it could take several more years to study the entire impact as a result of this oil spill here off of Louisiana's coast. Now, as far as the company responsible for this spill, they tell us in a statement, quote, Spectrum OpCo sincerely regrets this incident and its potential impact on our neighbors and remains fully engaged and resolutely committed to assisting with the cleanup. We'll send it back to you.
A baby with a rare genetic disorder is the first person in the world to be successfully treated with a first-of-its-kind treatment. The baby's family speaks to CBS News in their first TV interview next. You're watching CBS News 24/7. St. Louis is reporting downed trees and power lines after a storm swept through the region. Our affiliate partner KMOV is on the ground.
We're here in Clayton. We're on South Brentwood Boulevard. I think you just saw our shot a little bit ago. I'll get out of the way. You can see what you were seeing earlier now much closer up. The traffic signal here at South Brentwood Boulevard and Corporate Park Drive, right next to Enterprise Mobility Headquarters. It's a business park area, is in the road. There were some crews out here earlier. Now people seem to be driving around it themselves. But you can see also a lot of the tree debris. And then if you look across the street to this Cavalier building, it appears to be an apartment complex. You can see, looking up the street toward these homes, all of the trees that are now down in the road alongside of that side of South Brentwood Boulevard. And on this side of the street, it's a lot of smaller branches. And then when you look at the ground, you can see all kinds of pieces of roof. That looks to be a pretty significant sized piece right there sitting next to the electrical box. So traffic is slow moving here on South Brentwood Boulevard, right outside of Clayton. But this is the first thing that we came up on when we got off of 170 at Forest Park Parkway. We've been hearing sirens. We've been seeing a lot of tree debris down in this area, but really significant, especially, I want Jim to pan up one more time. When you look up that street, you can barely, well, you can't see through. You can see that large tree has fallen in the roadway, so we'd like to kind of venture up that way, make sure everybody is okay up there. You look at some of these apartment buildings here across the street, it looks like the windows blew out here on the corner of this building on the 2nd story. It looks like maybe a curtain or something is coming out of the window right there. So a lot of damage here. We're still obviously surveying everything, hoping to talk to some people around here. But again, South Brentwood Boulevard here in Clayton, a lot of tree damage, roof damage, and so far from what we've seen, no overturned cars or anything like that, but certainly some signs of a major storm that powered through here, guys.
News we're following around the world. A Ukrainian man is now charged with setting several fires at properties connected to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Those fires were set over 5 days in North London in the past 2 weeks. It included the personal home of the Prime Minister along with another property and car linked to him. No injuries were reported.
Per incontrare persone e culture diverse.
In his first address to world diplomats, Pope Leo XIV urged people to respect the dignity of migrants. The Pope was born in Chicago, but lived in Peru for many years. He says his own background made him feel compelled to call for compassion and solidarity with those seeking a better life in other countries. The streets of ancient Croatian towns are usually packed with tourists. Many are eager to visit the locations where Game of Thrones and Star Wars: The Last Jedi were filmed. But some locals there say they're worried after President Trump said earlier this month that he would impose a 100% tariff on all movies produced outside of the United States. Trump didn't provide a timeline for those possible tariffs. And we are hearing from a Georgia woman who was found alive after she went missing for almost 3 weeks while hiking in California. Tiffany Slayton was found on Wednesday in a remote mountain cabin where she had taken shelter in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Authorities say the area she was located in now was snowed in. Slayton describes what she had to do to stay alive.
I managed to survive off of these leaks and boiling the snow melt for a very long period of time, actually. And I journaled it. I think I've been out maybe 23 days on this.
Wow, the Fresno County Sheriff Department says it has seen a couple of cases in the past of people surviving tough conditions in the Sierra Nevada, but never to this extent. Now to another miracle. The life of a baby with a rare genetic disorder has been saved with a first-of-a-kind treatment. That baby had a genetic mutation that would have caused a lifetime of severe health problems, but doctors were able to edit out that mutation. Dr. John LaPook explains how.
Soon after KJ Muldoon was born last summer, he was diagnosed with a rare genetic condition that is fatal for about half the infants affected. Until now, the only long-term treatment that worked had been a liver transplant. Instead, doctors at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia told KJ's family they could try something that had never been done before. Use a technology called CRISPR to find the one uniquely mutated gene out of 20,000 in his little body and fix it. KJ received 3 infusions to his liver earlier this year.
This is mind-blowing, and we should all be very, very excited.
Brian Brown is an immunologist and bioengineer who heads up gene research at Mount Sinai Medical Center.
We are at day one of, the future of how we're going to treat different diseases.
And what does that future potentially look like?
We may have potentially treatments for, horrible diseases that children may be born with.
Baby KJ is gaining weight and thriving. So far, there have been no serious side effects, but doctors are monitoring him closely and hope to send him home soon.
To watch him from the day he was born and his will to live has inspired me.
KJ's parents, Kyle and Nicole, are looking forward to his first birthday in August. We spoke to them on Zoom late today.
Nicole, what's it like for you now to hold your son in your arms?
Now when I get to hold him and he's laughing and jumping around, that's a very heartwarming, because I didn't know if that was going to happen at one point.
Dr. John LaPook, CBS News, New York.
Let's bring up our TikTok tube, shall we? Incredible video out of Connecticut, that is, where one family says it shows one of their dogs keeping their French bulldog alive. The bulldog, named Yogi, suffers from severe epilepsy. Yogi had a seizure at home with no humans around, and their boxer, Reggie, didn't hesitate to help. The family posted on social media that Reggie kept rolling Yogi over to stop him from aspirating. The family posted that they gave Reggie a steak to reward him. So sweet. We have so much content like that on our TikTok and Instagram, so please follow us. America Decides is next. You're watching CBS News 24/7.